Yeah, so when people meet for the first time, and I was in so many great offices this week, thanks for the warm hospitality down here. And the great thing is that, everyone we talk with, they would say, hey, I never heard of Nutritional Frontiers. I said, we can't say that anymore, right? And I said, you want to know the difference on us? There's really three differences. Do you know what they are?
I do know what they are.
What are they?
There are people, our formulas, and our business model.
Yeah, so when it's our people.
Thanks, I get an A. I get an A for that.
If you go right to our website on our story, it'll tell you about NF and our people. And you put, go down to meet, there's a little video about myself, but meet the team. This will show you all the people. So when you call the office, you get to speak to someone live. You have Justin Elliott here who will come to your office and work by appointment, right? And then we have VIP clients. Anyone here a VIP tonight?
We do have a couple of VIPs
put those on,
in the
put those
house.
hands up. There we go.
That's right, Dr. Bob, Nicola. Yep. I know you didn't want to put a name tag on. Miss Osborne in the back.
So what's a VIP client is what?
What's a VIP client? They do a wonderful amount of business with us. They promote our brand. They provide us with testimonials, as my wonderful friend Janelle in the cowgirl hat tonight. She went to grab dinner. She isn't in the room at the moment. But yeah, she provided testimonial for us. Referrals, right? We want to get the word out about Nutritional Frontiers, so we lean on you to do that. And then we want to make sure that we also support you with lots of perks for being a VIP, like priority seating at a professional training event. You get notices about upcoming special events prior to anybody else. We provide products to you to give us feedback when we have new products that come out.
Yeah,
and swag.
also preferred seating at the events. Also free admission to the events, right? And also, when you take advantage of the VIP, it's a loyalty program, just like Marriott. I tend to go out of my way to Marriott because it's one less thing I have to worry about on the road, right? And when you work with Nutritional Frontiers, your focus is on patients, not products. So I walk in your office and you have 30 different brands. We understand because the co-founder of Nutritional Frontiers is a chiropractor, right? And we still have the wellness center, so we carry a lot of these brands. So we're trying to create is a loyalty and relationship because our business model is different, as you mentioned. And what's different about our business model?
We do a lot of things to support you in office, right? Everything from providing you with marketing support, materials, training, support for sales, your team, how to speak to your patients about how to use products. Actually, all of the things to your right, Jamie, is what we do in terms of supporting everyone.
Yeah, the big thing is you go back to our team, Phil. We have a tremendous amount of support with our brand ambassadors. These are our VIP plus. People like Dr. Bob Rakowski. When I was a district sales manager at Metagenics before they sold the first time, I had the pleasure and the honor of hosting Dr. Bob and Dr. Jeff Bland. I have chills going up my body right now. Be a younger in my career and be provided with that trust. And I knew when Dr. Bob came to town, there was no doubt he was going to bring the education at a level that exceeded everyone's expectations. And to have him as part of our team as a brand ambassador, I am honored. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Absolutely. And that's really a great point about our business model. What we really focus on is education, right? Helping to educate you, your teams, your patients, and having incredible speakers like Dr. Bob.
We have a tremendous group here. Dr. Tracy Strops, a naturopath, Dr. Maribel Verdialis, OBGYN and naturopath, Dr. Len Branswitz, he's fantastic, traditional trained pharmacist, natural medical doctor, and also CCN at a course right here in Texas. The great thing about Len is he can help you with some of these complex patients with medications, transitioning from allopathic to functional medicine. He's available for Zooms and also phone calls. So our team is very generous. So our people includes us, but you and all of our vendors. So we're using the top ingredients. You mentioned the formulations. I want to share briefly a couple of our unique ingredients that we use. So Phil, if you go back up on the site, it's very easy to navigate. We have 4 bars across the top and 4 drop-down menus. This was a huge investment for our company because we wanted a place, a community online where you, your staff, and your patients can all go without you being worried about being circumvented, right? So our business model is different because we work with you, your staff, and your patients, and allow everyone to reap all the rewards and benefits of all the education Christine and the marketing team put together. So when you look at quality, everything is listed on quality, including the patented research ingredients right here. This is a key, okay? This whole thing with the cheap products don't test is a misunderstanding in our field. If you go buy ginkgo down the street, it's ginkgo. It's just very low dose and probably the leaf, not the extract. So if you look at a lot of even professional brands, they may not use these trademark ingredients. We're going to highlight the Imodium and DMG tonight. The Imodium is the most bioavailable oral glutathione on the market. You can't find anything else that exceeds all their testing and all their results. So we're going to highlight a couple of these ingredients. But the formulas are more comprehensive. Do you use any of our formulas?
Oh my goodness, where do I begin? Yes,
I don't know.
a ton. I was talking to somebody in line about all the things I used to support tennis. You talked about going from allopathic to naturopathic. I was able to get myself off blood pressure medicine, mostly because I was shamed into it when I first joined Nutritional Frontiers. They're like, what are you doing taking a blood pressure medicine? I'm like, I don't know, the cardiologist told me I had to. Shouldn't I be on it? So I actually take 3 of our products, 7 Flowers, CircuCore, and EnerCoQ10 for blood pressure. So, my blood pressure has never been better. I didn't have to go back on anything, yay! And Jamie always jokes, well, are you better now? Or you better before you joined Nutritional Frontiers? And I am certainly the healthiest I've ever been. So very grateful to the products and Jamie.
And one of the things with education that we find to be really exciting for people, the feedback has been incredible, is our quarterly focus and videos. So you don't have to do all the marketing yourself in your office. You could just mirror what we're doing. So Christine and the team created this whole quarterly focus. So like in the first quarter year, it was GI, detox, and weight loss. So you can just utilize all of our marketing that we built for you. If you want the formats for yourself, you can use them. We have the videos right here. So this quarter is family, fitness, and healthy aging. And you can just pull those up and play the videos. You can have your patients go on there. And also, if they want to purchase any formulations through our website, how do they do it?
They do it through our affiliate program. So yeah, I know you guys leverage that big time. So what you do is you provide them with your own personal practitioner ID. They go on the website. You want to go to the homepage. You see the little person up at the top, and they log in as a patient. If Phil gets it to stop blinking on me. Okay, and so they have to use your practitioner ID, create an account, and then they can purchase whatever they want directly. And you get paid each week via PayPal, 35% without having to do anything. So this is really great if you don't, a lot of our docs use a hybrid program. So you carry some product in office, and then you can also offer other products online to your patients by just giving them your practitioner ID. And sometimes they'll purchase stuff just because it looks cool, and you get paid regardless. So that's a great way, if you don't, have a whole lot of capital to invest in inventory out of the gate.
So our business models want to work with you and your patients together. We have declined Amazon now 11 times. We just saw it.
Yes!
And look, I have friends at all the companies, right? I've been doing this 33 years, and it's a challenge when you're building up your clientele and they can buy it from Amazon directly without you benefiting. And I know the argument is, well, it's more expensive on Amazon, so don't worry, Doc. However, I used to buy on Amazon. It used to be for books, if you remember way back, right? The first time I bought on Amazon was for price. The last time I bought on Amazon was for what?
Convenience. It shows up.
People don't care how much it is.
I got a water filter waiting for me when I get back home.
Yeah. They think it's more expensive to go to your office to get this appointment, right? So be careful with those product lines that you're representing because people can buy them elsewhere. The other thing is a lot of formulations are not comprehensive enough. So I'm going to give you an example of a couple now. We also have a podcast you can watch, Meeting with Justin. You can Zoom with me, Dr. Len, Christine. We also have Joe Messino, the godfather of nutrition, if you guys know Joe. He's available for you to do Zoom training and come to the office. So we want to support you and customize it for you, your practice, and your patients. okay? So Justin will never be incentivized to come to your office to dump something on you. It's all about helping you purchase what you need for your practice. And Christine mentioned the hybrid, which is great because you can carry the formulations in your practice that are the top 10 or 15 or 20 you need, and you can open up the entire product line to all your clients and customers, plus their family and friends. Maybe they want a multi or a fish oil, right? Or maybe the dad needs a prostate support. So they can go on there and participate with you, and also you guys get the benefits and the rewards for it. It's also a nice strategy what Dr. Len's doing. He calls it his pension program, right? So there are pensions around still. They're not the old ones. It's got to be a little more creative. It's a nice way to do that, to be involved and have your patients involved with our site, which was a huge investment for our company. And we did it because we said, hey, what's the vision in 10 years? E-commerce is not going anywhere, but doing your own site, private labeling, going through Fullscript, you know, you lose a lot of control with your business. So this is an opportunity for you to streamline your practice, and you can do a hybrid. So I want to highlight a couple ingredients for you guys. And Justin may be passing out some Enter-CoQ10. Here's the Enter-DMG. Everyone familiar with dimethylglycine? Oh, man, I tell you what, very sophisticated crowd here. Here, you want to pass them out on that side? This is straight DMG, 500 milligrams per chewable. And we'll go through some of the research on it before Bob starts up. You can take one. Let's go to the PowerPoint, Phil. Yeah. So when you think of Nutritional Frontiers, realize we are a faith-based, family-owned, mission-driven, Pittsburgh-based company. I own the company 100%, and my son Zach is a biochemist, and he's director of operations. So we're a family-based, based in Pittsburgh, PA, and we're on a mission. Our mission is really simple. What's our mission, Christine?
To make the world healthy.
And it starts with us, right? It starts with us because you guys give so much to your patients, you got to make sure you give back to yourself. And when you work with us, you can guarantee you can trust us. I gave my business card to just about everyone here. That is my cell number and
Call
direct
him,
contact.
blow him up, doesn't matter what time, day or night, he loves it.
Yes. People say you're too busy. I say, actually, I'm not. Call me or text me. Innovation. We use more patented research trademarked ingredients for a mid-sized company. We're not small anymore. We're a mid-sized company. And since COVID, we've come out with over 75 new or updated formulations. So we're constantly coming out with new formulations.
And stay tuned, there's going to be a boatload coming out at the end of September. Hint, hint. Yeah, buddy. Coming soon. Our new product pipeline's about to explode.
You can guarantee our integrity is at the highest it can be. So if you need something, ask us. If there's a problem, give us an opportunity to fix it. Because our team is going to outservice anyone. Dr. Bob, on his great 34-second video on the boat at our PT last year, said service second to none. And I travel a lot. I know I expect very great service because I give it. However, you don't always get it these days. So if you're not getting service at our company, text me immediately and it'll be fixed. Like I said earlier, quicker than Domino's will get you the pizza, right? Yeah. Immediately. So here's some of our cool, what I call super biohackers. The old days of working out and eating good aren't good. It's not enough anymore. It's not enough anymore. We're living in a sea of toxicity. It's not just the food and the water and the chemicals, but emotions, TV, computers, cell phones, all these things. It's really have created a lot of noise in our life. So you need some super biohackers because the big four, when you look at them, are what? Stress, right? Food, nutritional deficiencies, toxicity, and genetics. And the fifth, Dr. Bob said, is movement, right? So we need some super biohackers. You're familiar with SPMs, specializing pro-resolving mediators? As Bob said, the biggest game changer in this century, right? Most amazing innovations, right? Over 2,000 published studies. I had a guy come up to the A4M. He says, I'm Mr. Research. I read 5 papers a day. I says, good. Are you busy for the next year? I said, here is 2,000 studies on PubMed. So if you look at SPMs, I'm going to summarize the 2,000 studies. So high sensitivity C-reactive protein, prostaglandin 2, and fibrinogens, and pain. So this is probably the biggest cardiovascular risk factor, right? The high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And this is only utilizing about 3 soft gels per day. We are also the first company in the world to come out with what?
A liquid SPM.
So if people don't want the soft gel, we use the oblong soft gel because we have the higher concentrations in there. We need that. If not, do the liquid. I keep the liquid in my fridge, and I take the soft gels on the road. Really simple to take every morning. But down 43% in 4 weeks, that's amazing. You won't see that with medications. Look at PG2 normalizing in 4 weeks, and fibrinogen rates. How many people do you know having blood clots, right? Either COVID, getting the shot, right? A lot of blood clots. In fact, in the last 2022, in the last about 40 years, healthy athletes 20 to 40 years of age had about 28 cardiac events leading to death per year. I thought that was a lot, right? But in 2022, exceeded the previous 38 years in 1 year. It's not going away. I heard in one office, autoimmune, it was like a list. I was like, don't run for the cure, run for the cause. And this is a way to get deeper concentrations, to clean up those unresolved, Dr. K yesterday mentioned unresolved inflammation 2 or 3 times. These are pro-resolving mediators. They will clean up that inflammation. I like a higher dose. I like 3 to 6 per day. This morning I was meeting Christine in the lobby. Justin was picking us up. And now I've streamlined to my new backpack. And I like to put a lot of books in there. So as I threw it around my back to get ready, because I thought we were late, I felt around my scapula. And I just done some heavier pullovers the other day, and I said, no, not today. So I got in the car. I even asked, I'll be honest, I asked at the front, do you have any Advil? Because it was like immediate. I went outside, and I said, Justin, I'm out of SPMs. Do you have any? He says, yes. I took 3, and by the time we got to the first office, it started to calm down. I took 3 more, and I just forgot about it, so I thought of it. So I like 2 to 3 times a day for acute flare-ups or injuries, and then you can do 3 to 6 a day for chronic issues. This is from the top quality German pharmaceutical facility, super critical, so we don't use any chemicals. It's high-pressure gas to get those concentrations, and all third-party independently tested through Eurofins. So let's look at a quick video. This is from one of our VIP dinners. Gotta hear that again.
Come on. We gotta go.
They threw the cane away. They didn't need it after 3 months.
So a guy came into your store with a cane, and in 3
he
months,
threw the cane.
he threw it away?
He threw the cane away. He didn't
And
need
what did you help him with?
it. SPM.
So there you go. There's an example. Somebody comes in their office with a cane, SPM by itself, 3 months. We, like I said, 3 soft gels twice a day for a therapeutic result. Some people may not need that much. The question is, what about fish oil? Hey, fish oil is great. It will work for a lot of things. It won't help with unresolved inflammation, right? It won't do it. It'll do a lot in the body. When you take the SPMs, you don't need the fish oil for a little bit, and then when you get balanced back out, go back on the omegas. They're both essential fatty acids. The other one is DMG. 3 U.S. patents for this, melanoma, RA, and OA. What does DMG stand for?
Darn mighty good.
Yes, if your patients can't remember dimethylglycine, darn mighty good. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So here are tumors in these animal cells right here. They injected them with DMG, and 8 weeks later, here are the same pictures. Right? Sometimes you got to show people, hey, these ingredients you're not going to find on Amazon. You need to find something more therapeutic. So how does DMG work? It basically falls apart in the body so you don't have to. It's coming straight from Dr. Roger Kendall, the PhD that wrote the book and has done research on DMG for the last 30, 40 years. If you look at the methyl pool that's going to feed glutathione, and Dr. Bob will get into this a little more, DMG is the master methylator. It feeds all the methylation steps, all 41 of them. That way you don't have to guess. And we use it in a lot of our formulations.
As a matter of fact, we have more than 30 formulas that contain DMG because it's such a good ingredient and you get such good cross benefit having it in there. And you can't take too much, can you?
Our number one seller is what?
Our number one seller,
Yeah.
GI Complete.
Does that have DMG in it?
It does.
500 milligrams. Our number two seller is greens. Does that have it in it?
It does.
Yes. It's the only greens that you'll find DMG and the Imodium in one. Gonna skip that for time. If you look at all four phases of the liver, you need to support glutathione production. However, a lot of glutathione and NAC, this actually study is on the Imodium. They decrease the glutathione in the cells, and they want to see how much can they increase it. So they actually used regular glutathione. It did about 50%, pretty good. NHC, about 66%. The Imodium that we have in our greens, in our Live Complete, right, over 140%. So we know we increase glutathione in the body. It's only half the story. The other half is liver function. So same ones. The groups that had the regular glutathione and NAC, their enzymes are over 5,000, and the Imodium group, only 2,000. So it gets in there, it increases glutathione, and it works really well in the liver. So this is actually a former employee. Her mom was about 80, short Italian woman, walked every day, no medications, about 110 pounds, and her doctor recommends she get the shot. Okay? I don't care what your opinions on it. We know, if you follow the science, that it was a really bad idea, right? So I didn't get it, if you're curious. This woman did, and immediately her arm went numb in about a week. Within about 3 weeks, not even 2 weeks, she couldn't walk. She had to move in with her daughter, and the grandkids were home from college for the summer. Now they got to take care of grandma. Her liver enzymes were over 6,000. Yeah, pretty high, right? She was going into acute liver failure. That's what was going to happen next. They diagnosed her as myocarditis. And I says, well, let's try and cleanse her. I don't know. Well, she's willing to do a shake a day. So we use the Ultimate Shake with the greens, and then we use a capsule, which is Live Complete. In less than 4 months, her enzymes were down to 70.
Pretty powerful stuff.
So you need these innovative super biohackers. You can't get by anymore, folks, on just working out and even eating halfway good. The food is toxic. The world is toxic. You need to use these ingredients. So at Nutritional Frontiers, we're on a mission. We're looking for people that are in alignment with our mission. And if that's you, we could appreciate any business we can work and earn with you. And if you ever need anything, you have my direct cell number, text, email, however you need to get a hold of me. And you're in great hands here locally with Justin. So thanks so much for coming. Thanks, Christine, so much.
Absolutely. I want to make just one quick little note.
Yes.
So we had samples in the back, right, on these two high tops back there. Okay, so you've now had dinner. If you would like to try our Probzyme, our probiotic enzyme, I never leave home without it. That and the American Express card with Jamie's name on it. That I would highly recommend the Probzyme. The other thing that's on that table is Glucolyze, okay? I'm pointing that out to you because we have put dessert outside. Justin has our Glucolyze. I will take like 4 Glucolyze. They taste really good. They're like cinnamony. And they will manage your blood sugar. So your blood sugar won't spike when you have dessert or wine. That is my favorite wine hack, ladies, with the wine up front. So if you are interested in trying that, that is also in the back table. Feel free. And we will have the coffee bar also set up outside. So if you'd like coffee, one of the things that is good in coffee is to make a mocha. And we have our Proline Greens chocolate, and it's delicious to make a mocha with. Okay, so if you're feeling like a mocha coffee, please do. Hello, Browns. You guys, there are a couple chairs up front. You're more than welcome to come up.
Yeah, and Bob's moving up, so.
Yep, come on
Well,
down.
we're so
Come
excited
on
to be here tonight. And as I mentioned before, you know, one of my mentors and favorite speakers ever is Dr. Bob. And I remember somebody I used to work with says, how'd you get Dr. Bob to speak for you? I says, I asked him. I said, he's never said no, this guy. He's amazing. I said, he travels all over, him and his wife, with the Organo coffee and speaking at events. My friends were at the Swiss conference, and they go, there's an incredible speaker, Dr. Bob Rakowski. I said, yeah, I know him. I says, he goes, he's the #1 speaker at the Swiss conference, which is the World International Strength Conference. So he travels all over the world. Nobody more generous and more knowledgeable. And I think the thing I love the most is we were doing a Zoom recently with Justin, and he goes, oh, I learned something new. He goes, I learn something new every day. So he's very open-minded, very generous, and of course, very knowledgeable and successful. And something I learned a long time ago, if you want to be successful, follow someone who's actually done it, and nobody's done it better. So let's hear a warm welcome for Dr. Bob.
Heck yeah. Woo!
Who am I meeting for the first time? Raise your hand if that's you. A handful. One thing that I'm known for is probably erring on the side of too much information. So maybe I have 100 minutes, I have 247 slides, so I'm probably going to hit the high points. You're going to get all the slides. The reason I included that many is I want you to have all the references to know beyond any doubt that what we're sharing is absolutely real, validated by science. Clinical experience, by my 10th year, I treated world champions from every major professional sport. I like to say that I treat world champions for my resume, and I treat everybody else for my soul. Over 10,000 hours of seminars all over the world, 6 different continents, not Antarctica yet. Maybe we'll talk some penguins into having an event. About 9 years ago now, before Dale Bredesen published his book, The End of Alzheimer's, I was one of the co-lecturers at the conference with him on the main stage. And one of the things he would teach, which was so brilliant, is whenever there's a problem with any organ system, there are 3 distinct zones of cells. There are cells that are dead. Well, there's nothing we can do about that. There's cells that are fine. There's nothing we need to do about that. But in between are cells that are functional but not functioning. And if we get back function, we get back function. So that foot was given a death sentence. It was to be amputated 2 days from the day that picture was taken. That was day 1 that I saw her. Notice that foot 2 weeks later. And then notice it 17 months later, no surgery. And what I tell people is that bodies respond to frequency, duration, intensity, quality, and timing of stimuli. We take advantage of every single one of those things. I'm going to dose people every waking hour because most people want to be better yesterday. And yeah, I will dose the SPMs like that. Severe concussion, I guess I'll tell the story now. I'm not going to get through all 247 slides. I got a call from a guy that was a lung cancer survivor, had really bad COVID, was intubated for a month, and he went home. They said, sorry, your lungs are trashed. You've got pulmonary fibroses. He happened to be in Canada. And one of my students said, I'm going to refer you to Dr. Bob. And when I talked to him, I knew from sports nutrition that we could digest scar tissue with proteolytic enzymes. So Sibzyme is a phenomenal enzyme blend that works really, really well. I did that. I did SPMs every waking hour. I did Ganoderma reishi spores every waking hour. And not even knowing that we were going to not only dissolve the scar tissue in the lungs, but also any remnant of spike protein. And that's been proven since. Proteolytic enzymes, lumbokinase, serrapeptidase, things like that, nattokinase get all the press. But I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot better value and more impact dosing Sibzyme every waking hour, and I've got hundreds of patients to show it. But the guy had to wait a month before his appointment with pulmonologist. They said supplemental oxygen, hopefully you get a lung transplant before you die. And when he showed up, the guy did a pulmonary function test. He says, what are you doing here? He says, well, they tell me I have pulmonary fibrosis. He says, no, you don't. Your lungs are fine. Go home. So that was post-lung cancer, post-COVID, post-intubated, pulmonary fibrosis. Proteolytic enzymes every waking hour can be powerful. So we've done this multiple times for limbs, and we have 3 different cases on video where we show the patients, hey, this was what I came in like, this is what I'm like now today. We've had people on cardiac transplant. I had a guy that had 11% ejection fraction, 10 days with a comprehensive protocol, he's up to 33%. I told you the lung story. We've had people on liver transplant, kidney transplant. No, what you've been taught about the kidneys is not right. Once you start spilling protein, it's not like a hole in a coffee filter. It's not like it never heals. With the right protocol, it can heal. And I've had severe diabetics spilling thousands of units of protein, get down to just a trace with the right protocol for them. So, yeah.
Those proteolytic enzymes, dosing them every waking hour,
Yeah.
don't they need to be away from food?
Well, when they take it with food, they're going to digest food. When they take it away from food, they're going to get its systemic
get it
benefit.
systemically,
Yeah, good
it
point.
has to be
Yep. So, correct. If you're taking the enzymes with food, you will digest the food. Away from food, you're going to digest different things in the system, including even infection. And in fact, the quote from the medical literature is systemic enzyme application appears limitless. That's right out of the peer-reviewed literature. So when we start looking at this argument, nature versus nurture, I'm going to tell you that environment definitely trumps willpower. I tell my patients, buy your willpower at the store. Make things really, really easy. I think Mark Twain said it best, I can resist anything but temptation, if that's the one that said it, right? So don't tempt yourself. 10% of your life might be basically what happens. 90% is going to be your reaction. So let's talk about cancer. It is a disease of the genes, but it is not inherited. And the experts are saying maybe 5% of cancer is genetic, maybe 10 at the most. 90 to 95 is going to be what you do with those genes. So if I were going to ask you, how long has the BRCA gene been around? We'll show you later. It's probably been since the beginning of time, but why is it so expressed now? Our lifestyle will either turn on or turn off the switches, and that's what epigenetics is all about, above the genetics. So we go back to 1860. This is U.S. morbidity and mortality. Death rate from cancer was 61 of 10,000 deaths. That's 0.61%. How much of our genes changed since 1860? Minimally. How about our environment? In a crazy way that promotes chronic illness and now worse than ever. So we'll talk about addiction since we're talking about the brain. And interestingly enough, they did a rat study. And when they put a rat in a cage and he's all alone by himself and he's got nothing to do and he's got morphine, he'll overdose on the morphine until he dies. But if you put him in rat utopia, they have plenty of playmates, they have, members of the opposite sex, they have toys, they have food. They rarely take the morphine and they never overdose. So environment definitely trumps willpower. So we had an interesting experiment here in the US. When soldiers came back from Vietnam, 20% of them were addicted to heroin. And that's Mucus Welby or Marcus Welby, MD, if you remember. I actually kind of liked him when I was a kid, but we see the medical models kind of broken. But, 60s doc, hey, how are we going to treat all these heroin addicts? Well, maybe you don't need to. Because when they were surrounded by their family, only 1% of the soldiers became re-addicted to heroin. So look at the environment. That's I don't play with drugs. I don't try that kind of thing. But I know patients that have done that. I've even read books about heroin addicts, and it sounds like it'd be about the toughest addiction anybody could ever have. But 99% of them beat it when they were in a loving, nurturing environment where they felt like they belonged and could add value. David St. Clair, great longevity research, he talks about the information theory of aging. And if your cells get the right information, he thinks we can be at least 150 years old. He says in 10 years, if we get through the next 10, we'll live to be 150. I'm not really certain about that. And he thinks even longer than that. But why not surround ourselves with the right information all the time? And very, very simply, it's not our genes that change, it's the epigenome and the message that we're sending that creates the expression. So that's Leonard Bernstein, and I love that picture as much as any picture I've ever seen in my entire life. How many of you have enjoyed what you do that much at any moment? There's definitely times that I get tremendous joy from what I do. In fact, I'd like to say I seek it in every area of my life, but that's a pretty epic moment. But what if this guy was running the show? He'd say, oh, your liver, okay, do this now, don't do that. Tell your heart, do this now, your kidneys, whatever, right? I was jokingly telling at a conference for the first time I showed this picture, I don't have any musical talent at all. God gave me a lot of gifts. I'm very happy for them, but music was not on the list anywhere. So he'd give me a tambourine, and he'd go like this, and I go, and that'd be about my role in this band, right? I could hit the tambourine when he'd point to me. But imagine if you have a guy like that running all the instrumentation of everything. He could take a group of amateurs, find out what exactly was right for them, and make it work right. When you make the right lifestyle choices, I don't care what kind of genes you have, you can maximize your wellness, and that should be pretty epic. Our DNA is definitely not our destiny. It's going to be what we do with it. Methylation's a huge factor. That's why they're big fans of DMG, dimethylglycine. You got to read that book, and you're going to come to realize Nobel Prize-winning research. This is really epic, and they have it in so many formulas because people are under-methylators, poor methylators, and it's not just the story of methylfolate. That was great when we learned that, but the methyl pool is also depleted. And with our best choices, we can be our best self. With our worst choices, every choice moves us away from where we want to be. So I talk about sevens, the magnificent seven. You've got to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every single day. And while we're talking about eating, this is probably 5 different Nobel Prizes, and the rest should be in there as well. But eat real food, not fake food, clean food, not the dirty, intoxicated stuff, not with the herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, genetically modified so that the toxins are spliced within, and that gives them license to intoxicate the entire planet with glyphosate. And yeah, it's not just here, it's spreading everywhere, and the medical literature says that it is an autism accelerator. Look it up. You wonder where this problem is coming from. In 2006, I did an international series called Creating a Healthy Brain in a Toxic World. Our brain is intoxicated by our food. So real food, clean food, not too much, calorie restriction, #1 mechanism of longevity ever studied, not too often. Intermittent fasting works for everybody. If you have the best genes, you need about a 14-hour fasting window. ApoE44, we'll call that the worst gene marker for fat metabolism and things like that. You need an 18-hour a day window. If you're a 3-3, you need a 16-hour a day. 2-2 gets to 14. Every color, every day, that's easiest to do with the greens and reds and oranges in a way that honors your genetics, your physiology, and your body goals, mostly plants. Lately, I've been getting kickback on the mostly plants. Wait a minute, Bob. Wait a minute. Look at all these people with benefits from carnivore. Do you know why they're getting such benefit from carnivore? We are not carnivores. We are omnivores. But the worst bugs in our gut are herbivores. You feed these plant starches and everything else, and you're feeding these bad bugs. And the difference between good bugs and bad is what they eat and what they poop. Good bugs eat poop and poop nutrients. Bad bugs eat nutrients, poop toxins. Just 5 days on carnivore, nothing but meat, and you will kill off, starve off most of those bad bugs in the gut. And now that's proven in study after study. So when the tobacco companies got hit really, really hard for poisoning the world and faking the research and buying out scientists, and what was it, 4 out of 5 doctors recommend Camel cigarettes or something stupid like that, right? I mean, come on. When they got hit really, really hard, well, they said, okay, we can't poison them with tobacco, but what about food? So here it is. For decades, tobacco companies hooked people on cigarettes by making their products more addictive. Now a new study suggests that tobacco companies may have used similar strategy to hook people on processed foods when they bought out food giants in the 1980s. Kelly Brownell, Yale University, 25 years ago said, food in this country is engineered to be addictive. Because when you have someone addicted to something, they keep coming back to it again and again and again. And of course, they used what they called hyper-palatable foods. Things that fooled your brain into thinking, wow, this is so delicious, I ought to keep eating it, it's going to be the best thing for me ever. And instead, it was poisoning them consistently. Somewhere I'm going to show later about how these drug companies are also buying up nutrition companies. So Jamie mentioned I was a lecturer for Metagenics. Great company, right? But they were sold. Then they were sold again. Then they were sold again. Are the ingredients the same? Are the chelates the same? Is the quality the same? Is the service the same? Is the business model the same? So who's the new giant on the horizon? The one that says we're going to put the best ingredients, we're going to put out the best education, and we're going to provide the best service, and you just happen to be in the room. And how wonderful is that? Your patients are definitely worth the best of it. So this is the FDA commissioner. What a great name, Jim Jones. Anybody hear of Jonestown? Right? Listen, he'll make Jim Jones look like an angel. British Medical Journal says there's increasing evidence that ultra-processed foods can make us sick. Not can, do, period, end of story. And what does the FDA commissioner say? Well, we need more science. Tufts said that Lucky Charms was healthier than grass-fed organic steak. Come on, Tufts University. Tufts University. How insane. Twinkie deconstructed all these horrible chemicals within it. this guy that's not a video to show, but he found a 40-year-old box of Twinkies. And he opened it up, and doggone, it looked the same, it smelled the same, it tastes the same. So mold is not stupid enough to eat that stuff, right? I mean, think about that for a minute. How ridiculous is that? I like what Judy Mikovits said, count chemicals, not calories. If you don't know who she is, go look at the featured film, Plandemic. This is a woman of principle who she doesn't care who she's up against. She knows who's on her side, and she's committed to winning. And a little stint in prison, big deal, to expose the corruption that's out there, which the world is waking up. Daniel Amen, amazing character, over 200,000 brain scans at this point. What did he learn? You can change your brain. Even after a traumatic brain injury, and I love this book, The End of Mental Illness. Here's the quote, or the question, what if brain health and mental health are one and the same? They're not, but they're pretty doggone tightly related. And then he's got all these different scans, and you begin to realize that when you do things that are unhealthy, you will see structural and functional changes in your brain. The brain is the most nutrient-dependent, energy-dependent, stress-vulnerable, toxin-vulnerable organ that we have, and those are the things we're suffering with. I'm not going to play the video, but Daniel Amen, he says, you know, if you were an evil scientist and you want to destroy the world, what would you do? He says, I'd create the world, or destroy the brains. I would create the world that we have right now. Because everything that we're encouraging people to do is essentially neurotoxic. It's disrupting their mental health. And he's got that wonderful acronym, Bright Minds, and we're going to go through each of those. When we start talking about brain health, the primary input to the brain is the body. When you take care of your body, when you move your body, you nourish your body, mind, and spirit. And some people might say, I don't have time. You know, when I started teaching long seminars, Charles Poliquin actually gave me this great idea, rest his wonderful soul. We would actually teach trainers, and we'd have a room of some really fit people. He'd say, Bob, every hour, we're going to exercise. So we started doing Tabatas at seminars. We'd have people stand up, and it's 20 seconds on, all out, 10-second recovery, 8 cycles. Within 8 rounds of that, the data is very, very clear. They took 2 groups of people, age-matched, health-matched. One group did 3 Tabatas a week. That was 4 minutes 3 times a week. The other group ran 60 minutes at a moderate pace 3 times a week. At the end of the 90 days, the group that did the Tabata had better cardiovascular fitness, better body composition, better muscle mass, better etc. Intensity matters when it comes to exercise, and predominantly brain-derived neurotrophic factor. How many of you are familiar with the term myokine? Myokine. Not enough, right? We know of cytokine and things like that. Myokine are muscle signaling molecules. The most important or researched is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. There's over 700 myokines. There's now talks about muscle-centered healthcare. When the muscles are healthy, the brain and body are healthier. When the muscles are activated, the brain and body are healthier. And they basically call it, miracle grow for the brain. So this was a study out of Harvard. And here's a very interesting thing. The internet has been scrubbed of facts, of data that doesn't support what they want people to know. If you dig, you will find. But this was a study. They took people that were clinically depressed and they put them in 3 groups. One group got Zoloft, one group got exercise, the other group got Zoloft and exercise. We'll let the cat out of the bag. The only group that was better at 6 months was exercise alone. Everybody had some little benefit initially. Now, if you look at the antidepressants, the SSRIs, the data is clear. They only work slightly better than placebo, and the spillover was the most severe cases. So people mild to moderate, they did just as well with the placebo. So even exercise, the benefits of it were undone by the antidepressant. 1 in 7.4 patients treated with antidepressants responded. 1 in 7.4, that's not a very good response. 1 in 4.8 had adverse effects. There's your PubMed. So does that sound like something we should be pushing on everybody? I happen to love that video. 90-something-year-old woman, she kind of walks out like she's decrepit and everything else, and that music comes on and she comes to life. And what a beautiful dance routine, and her brain and body are better for that movement. Hippocampus benefits tremendously from exercise. And then, of course, there's nitric oxide, the miracle molecule. Single dose can dilate blood vessels as much as 62%. So there's our CircuitCore, That is the primary nitric oxide product that I use. Absolutely fantastic. If we're going to have a long nitric oxide lecture, we'd tell you that inflammation devours nitric oxide. So we got to get the SPMs, we got to get the clean diet, we got to seal and heal the gut, we got to detoxify the body, we got to get good sleep, we got to do all these things, but you want a quick nitric oxide boost, that is going to be your supplement. When we start looking at retirement, use it or lose it is a real phenomena, and when people disengage after retirement, if you're going to retire from something, retire to something. You retire to the grave if that's what you decide to do. So go on to something bigger and better. And then when we start looking at the blue zones, purpose, I would have listed that one pretty close to number 1. Without purpose, we perish. So why not have a purpose, expand our purpose, ever evolve our purpose? When we start looking at inflammation, Time cover story, very famous, the silent killer, the secret killer. Well, what's the secret? It is inflammation that is below the threshold of pain, which every one of us has some level of that. The ideal level of high sensitivity C-reactive protein is not 0. It's definitely less than 1. It's probably less than 0.6 as well, but we're going to have some inflammatory process in our body. Has anybody read this book or heard of Casey Means, Good Energy? Phenomenal book. You should read it. I've got the audio version on my phone right now, listening to it for the 3rd time. She was 11th year Stanford medicine head and neck surgery. And she kept operating on people, and the same woman came in with severe sinusitis, and she thought, how much of this woman's sinuses can I cut out? And maybe there's something else going on here. And she realized she was so inflamed, but here was what she said in her book. I could play the audio because I have it almost queued up. But she said, you know what, in 11 years at Stanford Med School, they never once taught me, how do you resolve inflammation? What causes inflammation? Think about that for a moment. The Ivy League schools have really taken a downturn for a lot of different reasons. But she said, I was scratching my head saying a lot of these patients are chronically inflamed, and I think there's probably a better approach than surgery. You think? How wonderful that she had that epiphany and that bravery. Imagine stepping away from, who knows, $500,000 spent on education, 11 just slave-like years of her life, just, nearly 24/7, 5 years of crazy residency, and you're going to walk out to a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year job, and you walk away because you realize we're not serving anybody? Well, I shouldn't say not serving anybody. We're not doing what we should do for most people that are out there. How many people have woke up? 117,000 MDs left medicine in 2021. Why? I think they realized something was quite wrong with the system that they were in. Over 300,000 professionals walked away. So what is killing people? It's our bad lifestyle choices. It's stress, it's toxins, it's malnutrition, it's physical inactivity. But right in the middle of that is systemic chronic inflammation. And then whether we're talking about diabetes, heart disease, cancer, depression, the whole gamut of ever-expanding autoimmunity. And by the way, your immune system doesn't wake up one day and say, oh, my thyroid, I used to love you, now I hate you, I want to kill you. No, that's not how it works. Cell injury precedes autoimmune disease. That was published in 2008. It's either infected, it's intoxicated, it's injured. There's some type of antigen-antibody reaction from food, gluten horribly common with the thyroid and things like that. Neurodegeneration, breakdown of muscle and bone, and even the immune system. All of this has as the intermediate step, systemic chronic inflammatory process. We are sicker than we've ever been, and we're getting sicker by the day. So when I give a report of findings to patients, I always say patients want to know the answers to 4 questions. What's causing the problem? Not what do we name it. I don't care what itis you put on the end of it. It's caused by stress, toxins, malnutrition, physical inactivity. Those are the big 4. And you need to learn to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every single day. Can I help? I've answered this question exactly the same every seminar I've taught for over 30 years. I don't know, but I'll try. Pride comes before the fall. I'm telling you what, you get cocky and the world will humble you. Be a humble servant, and then somehow, some way, you're going to find a way to help that patient if your heart is in the right place. I promise you that. How long will it take? Bodies respond to frequency, duration, intensity, quality, and timing of stimuli. How much will it cost? Well, that depends. You want to get over this fast or you want to get over it slow? You know, we're going to go everything that they're willing to do to make a better lifestyle, to move things into their body, to clean the toxins out of their life. They're going to get better faster when we do that. I say that doctors also need to know how complicated is the case, how strong and resilient is the patient. Is there anything in the chemistry we need to address? Is there an unresolved trauma or infection, or is there anything else? And the sky is the limit on the anything else. So Alternative Medicine 1989 published what they called the Deadly Quartet. And they said if you had a big belly, big blood pressure, big blood sugar, big blood fat, you had big problems coming. But what they didn't know is that wasn't even remotely accurate. All of those were symptoms of the real deadly quartet: stress, toxins, malnutrition, physical inactivity. And when we just fine-tune that a little bit and we show these causes, you see they all fit into that category easily. So we've all heard of insulin resistance. What about cortisol resistance? Who's heard of that? Here's the quote from the medical literature. Here's the exact words. Many, if not all, New World primates have elevated cortisol and cortisol resistance. That means all of us walking around somehow are getting too much cortisol out there. It could just be these lights not having the right hue, and then blue light shuts down melatonin. The gut has 400 times the melatonin as the brain. Melatonin is anti-cancer by at least 10 different mechanisms. Melatonin may be the body's most powerful antioxidant. They can trace melatonin down back to single-celled organisms 1 billion years ago. Do you know how critical it is in the ecosystem? And you know you can't overdose on it. They would actually infuse into dogs the equivalent of their body weight of melatonin for days on end, nonstop, 24/7, with no toxicity. Maybe they take an extra nap. No big deal, right? The cortisol receptors will downregulate, and that means your body's, one of its strongest defenses against inflammation has gone away. By the way, having the right omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is probably your best benefit there. And way back when, they say the ideal ratio is probably 2 to 1 or less of omega-6 to omega-3. I think they're being generous when they say today the standard American has a 20 to 1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Melatonin, when I first found this, I started what I called my stress reset. I'd have people take melatonin every waking hour because I knew they were stressed out of their mind. Now, how I know? I have them fill out a survey, right? Rate your stress. And most of the people I have that have come in are really struggling. They're going to rate their stress at 7, 8, 9, 10, or even 11 of 10. And you got to calm that down before the body's going to respond at all. When you're in fight or flight, how well is your liver working? Do you know? It's at 5 to 10%. How about your kidneys? It's about 5 to 10%. How about your high-level thought processing? Dramatically reduced. How about your happy centers? Dramatically reduced. You're in fight or flight. All you want to do is just pump fuel and blood to the muscles to fight or flee. When you give melatonin, it binds to the adrenal cortex and blocks the pituitary drive of stress on the body. Theanine causes relaxation without causing drowsiness. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. A natural GABA facilitator, and then the herb of spiritual potency, Ganoderma lucidum, also known as reishi, also known as ling chi. They've called it the herb of spiritual potency for decades, and it took them until 2022 to realize that it actually lowers serum cortisol. Some people take it and they just go, wow, what just happened? I feel really zen, is one of the more common words that I'll hear. So, what are you going to dose every waking hour? The Calm Day for the theanine, the melatonin, and the Ganoderma spores. 7 to 10 days. Most people lately, I've been doing about 10 days. People, they might feel a little wiped out the first couple of days. I've had some very sick people. We just start them on a stress reset because they can't handle much more. They're not digesting anything. Their liver's not working. Their kidney's not working. We've got to pull that plug on the stress to get them feeling better. Toxins, 25% of death around the world. When you look at toxins and inflammation, it's been 2 years since I updated that slide. So in 2022, 44,000 studies on toxins and inflammation. And then we've got the inflammatory process created by sedentary lifestyle. The people that I see that are the most broken are not those that are moving the most. There are those that are moving the least. The guy that's sitting around a desk is much worse off than the guy running a jackhammer 10 hours a day. And then malnutrition, Global Nutrition Report, malnutrition, #1 cause of death in 2020. Every single country is infected. Barry Sears, this was a couple decades ago. He and I were co-lecturing at a conference in Orlando, Florida. Mike, I don't know if you were at that one or not. It was a CCN conference. Barry was one of the keynote speakers. And at the time, they had the USDA food pyramid. This was one of the best quotes I ever heard from anybody from the podium ever. He put up the food pyramid and he just stood there and said, if ever there was a terrorist-like plot designed to destroy the health of the world, this would be it. So how did they come up with the food pyramid? There's a great book called Lessons of History. Will Durant, he wrote the Encyclopedia of World History. He talks about the lessons of politics. Let me cut to the chase. He says, politics, every nation, every era, doesn't matter. There's one thing that's always permeated it, and that is corruption. What was the lessons of money? Very, very powerful. Men who manage men will manage men who can only manage things. But men who manage money manage everything. So who are the people corrupting the politicians? You know, this could be a really bad term, but someone said, you don't get elected unless you're corrupted. They got to have something on you or they make sure you never get there. That's how they could stay silent when there were 27 approved or proven remedies for COVID, and they said there was nothing. There was nothing. So they could get the emergency authorization. And pediatricians, anybody know pediatricians? How much did pediatricians get paid to jab a 6-month-old? $1,000. $1,000 a pop to jab 6-month-olds. How horrific. And then you saw my diet recommendations. Anti-inflammatory diet, simple rule: if God made it, it's okay. If man made it, stay away. That's a paraphrase from Jack LaLanne. And what do I like? This is my nutrition pyramid. At the base is going to be food, real food, clean food, not too much, not too often, every color, every day, in a way that honors your physiology, your genetics, your body goals, mostly plants. We're going to go with really, really dense plant nutrients. Ganoderm is a superfood. The Proline Greens, their #2 product. It was #1 for a period of time, but their gut product is so good that it just recently pushed it over the top. Then we're going to use functional foods for detox. They've got phenomenal multivitamin, multi-minerals. I want everybody to at least order some men's complete and women's complete, and you're going to find out that this is the best formulated multi that I've seen after looking at multis for 40 years at this point. Absolutely phenomenal. Yep.
Just because it's relevant, I see Dr. Janelle nodding her head. We went to her office yesterday and she said, I had 2 patients come back to me and tell me they felt amazing after taking your multi. She goes, no one's ever told me about that.
Yeah, you've never heard that from a multi before. So bioavailable, so complete, so good, and so, we won't necessarily call it specific for male physiology. Women could benefit too, but there's a little blend for men that helps them a whole lot, and a different blend for women that helps them a whole lot. We're going to go with the omega-3s, and especially the Resolve Form. I'll talk more about that. The probiotics, you can go with the Probizyme back there. Give it a shot right now. And then the combo of D3 and K2.
What's that 90%?
So there's modern data that's, Hippocrates said this, he said, all disease starts in the gut. Now, after they've looked at all the literature, they suggest that 90% of every problem in every human is either related to the gut and or microbiome. So we've got to get that gut right. We have the worst microbiome in the world here because we're constantly poisoning it. 80% of antibiotics used in livestock. When the livestock consume it, that means the meat, eggs, and milk are going to have antibiotics permeated through. And when they poop, now we know the plants take it up in the soil. So there is no clean diet anymore. And what is antibiotic? Anti is against, bios is life. Antibiotics are against life. If you're consuming that, you're chiseling away at your life. So there is going to be bottom to top of what to do with nutritional frontiers. Yeah, you have to turn your head, right? But you know what? When you print it out, you get the notes, you get the PDF, you can turn the page and take a look at that, right? So I do recommend paleo, most keto, very, very often carnivore, short term. If there are vegans, we'll work with them, but we are not vegans and we're not carnivores. We are omnivores. Structure dictates function. I think we should honor how we're made. Now, I'm not for animal cruelty. I am not for factory farming. I did a fire walk with an Indian chief about 30 years ago, and this guy was so amazing, and he talked about the relationship they have with the plants and the animals and the rocks and the trees, and it was an honor to battle that buffalo. And to honor the buffalo, they'd nourish the entire tribe, and not any of it would go to waste. If we had that type of relationship with our food and our planet, we'd be much better off. So the brain depends definitely on EPA and DHA. The highest amount of fat in any tissue in the body is in adipose. The second highest is in the brain. The primary fat is DHA. So when we start looking at this below the threshold inflammation, we need to know that we need to have an ideal omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. There's the PubMed study 2021. It gets worse every year. But right now, 20-to-1 is the best estimate of the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in the diet here in America. So now when we start looking at these resolvins, what do? They resolve. That's how they got the name. You go from unresolved trauma, chronic inflammatory process, to tissue healing and resolution. That is what the resolvins promote. So if you want that bridge from being stuck in an ungood state to being fully repaired, that's what we do with the resolvins. Biggest problem in the world, you might call it obesity, we might call it diabesity, but it's the most expensive problem in the sick care system, even more expensive than cancer. And we'll take a little Ozempic tangent because it blocks the body's ability to perceive pleasure, and some people never recover it. So suddenly their time with their partner is not good anymore. Their time with their kids, their grandkids, whatever sport they enjoyed, someone just pulled the plug on joy. And for what reason? And Peter Attia, I like his book Drive, I like his podcast. He's another medical school dropout. I think he did go back, but he was, again, fourth-year resident at Johns Hopkins. And he realized that a patient was not responding to a medication like they should. And so he decided to do a blood test. And he said, look, this guy's clearing this drug so fast, we need to double and triple the dose. And the guy says, no, that's not our protocol. And he said, well, he'll die if we don't do that. He says, it's not our protocol. So what did Peter do? He saved the guy's life. He gave him medication against the will, and he nearly got kicked out. He got, the guy recovered. He was perfectly fine. It's like, wow, that was really great. How'd you think of that? No, you broke protocol. You should be banished and punished, right? What a horrible story. I hope it's all changing around. But what does he say? People on Ozempic, extreme loss of muscle mass. And remember that term myokines now? 700 myokines, including brain-derived neurotrophic factor, muscle-centered healthcare. If you don't have muscle, you're not very healthy. The more muscle, to some degree, right? We want to get naturally derived good muscle. But right here, why can't I think of his name? Robert Lustig. He was in the Skinny on Obesity, but basically the Wegovy, very much like Ozempic, 40% of the weight loss was lean mass. Not good, right? Not good at all. So bodies respond to frequency, duration, intensity, quality, and timing of stimuli. That is a real patient. I literally had someone say, come on, that was not your patient. You didn't do that case. So I'll just show you the first couple things. And when we filmed her that day, I had her put a foot on a piece of paper, and she was so upset because her little toe fell off that morning in the shower. And I said, you know what? You didn't need it. Your body was done with that. And so then we show later, right, how that completely came around. And yeah, she's a real patient. And her A1C, they were very content. She was only 45 in that first foot picture. Her A1C was 7.0. And her doctor said, yeah, that's perfect. Come on.
Her body didn't think so.
Yeah. I mean, she's taking insulin sensitizers, mega insulin. On the last video, she was at 5.0. 5.0. And her endocrinologist was just dogging her. You're at risk. You're at risk. For what? For health? Are you crazy?
Hey, Bob, go back to the previous picture. One more. She's giving him the middle toe.
Ha. Boom. She is giving him the middle toe. I like it. So, resolvins are insulin sensitizing as well. It's just a staple in every single recommendation I make. Everybody gets resolvins. Why? Because people don't have enough omega-3, and even if they do, the healthiest people make more resolvins, the sickest make the least. You know what? I don't see most people coming in saying, I'm so healthy, I don't need anything. No, even the rich want to get richer. I've got plenty of those patients as well. They go, I feel great. Can you help me feel better? Yeah, I think we can. Right? So there's our diabetes protocol. We're going to do the ultimate shake. Pick the greens or reds or oranges of your choice. There's the glucolyze, which could be a wine hack. Listen, I'm perfectly okay with people having treats. But I'm going to tell you what, you need to earn your treats. And here's another, that means you train hard and then you get your treats. And then the next step is you buffer your treats. So now you got the best of everything. You earned it by training, and then you buffer it with the right nutrients so you don't have this horrible spike, and then your body handles it without poisoning your body, mind, and spirit. There's our Resolvins. There's our D3K2 combo. There's our probiotic enzyme combination. The one that's not Nutritional Frontiers product is the Ganoderma spores, and they have a patent on that. They are the highest bioavailable spore on the planet. When I lecture for other nutrition companies, they say, no, we're not bringing in any product that's not ours. What does Nutrition No Frontiers say? We'll bring anything that helps our patients and our doctors. That's the kind of company you want to partner with. So we partnered in that. We start looking at the risk of diabetes and body mass index. It's very, very clear. As you get bigger, you get more and more health problems along the way. Now, other things that you can do, there is their alternative to Ozempic. So now you can work on those receptors and get that benefit naturally without poisoning the body, without creating permanent problems. And then Thermogenesis Complete, this is a wonderful blend right there for appetite control, for fat loss, and then certainly comprehensive protein. We've got the shakes. Mark Houston, world-renowned cardiologist, here's what he says. Even though there are over 1,000 biomarkers for cardiovascular disease, there are 3 and only 3 causes: inflammation, oxidation, and autoimmune. American Journal of Cardiology, SPMs actually help to improve coronary microvascular dysfunction. So if you don't have SPMs, you get dysfunction. With SPMs, you don't have it. So this was a case study. Ron's kind of long-winded. I'll play the first minute or two.
Hey guys, Ron Worley here. I'm going to tell you a little story. I happen to be at an open house right now and nobody's here. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's sort of boring. So what a better time to talk to you about some friends of mine and what they did for me. In order to do that, I need to back up and tell you what happened to me. So 3 years ago on August 16th, I was standing there talking and doing a seminar for a group of professionals, and I dropped dead. And I actually died twice on the floor there. The first time my wife tried to help me with some CPR and bring me back to life. That wasn't working. Thank God we had some professionals that had AED machines, and they hooked those up and brought me back to life. I had sudden cardiac arrest. Now, mind you, I was an ex-bodybuilder at the time. I ate right. I did everything right. My heart was not unhealthy. Just for some reason, it wasn't pumping enough blood into my body. What it's supposed to do is pump 65% of the body's blood from the left ventricle. Mine was only pumping 10. And only 2% of the people that have this problem actually survive the problem. So I was a lucky 2%er. That being said, I told that entire story to Deanna when I met her. Just by chance, she happened to come over and do an open house with her and Casey at my wife and I's house. And we just started rapping away there, and she was so inviting and welcome and warming, and she believes so hard in these products of hers, and a man named Dr. Bob. She tells me all about this and invites us to come meet Dr. Bob. And you know, over the 3 years, I've tried absolutely everything. Everybody's products. I've done stem cell, and I'm on the cardiologist's pills. Nothing has fixed me over the 3 years. Right now, or before this, when I met her, I was really just treating the symptoms of heart failure with lots of medication that made me ill and feel worse, really. So I meet with Dr. Bob, and what a fantastic guy. He was super outgoing and funny, and he really was passionate about what he was doing. And so I listened to him talk, and while he's talking, he pops up a few videos, and lo and behold, there's 3 people that have the same exact thing I have, and he had managed to fix them. Now, he'll tell you he can't make claims, and he
So-
will not tell me.
I'll stop with that right there. It's on my YouTube channel, but within 10 days, he went from 11% ejection fraction to 33. Within 6 months, off of all 8 medications, he went ice fishing with his brother in Alaska, and when they were trudging the heavy equipment across the frozen lake, he said his cardio was better than his brother's, who has no heart problem. So Ron meets me. I'm giving a health lecture in Colorado, and comes up, and I shake his hand. I says, "So how can I help you?" He says, "You can't." I thought, okay, what's going on with you? He says, well, I'm in heart failure. My heart's horrible. They don't know what's wrong. I've got 11% ejection fraction. And if I don't get a transplant, I'm going to die. I said, interesting. So I happened to have a couple other patients on video that were told the same thing. And one, I got her ejection fraction back to 60, if you can believe that. And how amazing is that? And you have to be below 20 to be on heart transplant list. So what did we do? We figured out what was causing the problem. We got rid of the inflammatory process. We optimized the nitric oxide. We got the inflammatory process under control. We loaded up on CoQ10. We gave the taurine. We updated the magnesium status of his body. And bodies can heal. So fun video there. But inflammation, you've definitely got to get rid of that, right? 131,000 different studies linking inflammation and cancer. It was here in Dallas, Texas, that I listened to a guy named Dean Black over 35 years ago, walks into a group of 200 doctors, and we're there for a cancer lecture, and he says, first question is, how does a hurricane start? And we're all looking at each other like, what room are we in? I thought we were coming to a cancer lecture. He says, come on, humor me. How does a hurricane start? And someone says, I don't know, small. Okay, fine. How's a tornado start? I don't know, Well, his answer was, when conditions are just right. How does an earthquake start? When conditions are just right. How does cancer start? When conditions are just right. And those conditions include low oxygen, low nutrients, high acid, chronic inflammation, immune suppression, secondary to chronic distress. And then he asks, how does cancer resolve? Change the conditions. And that was his strategy all the way there. So the chronic inflammatory environment is essential for neoplastic progression. You start looking at this chronic inflammatory process, and the end result of that could be cancer if it doesn't get under control. So this is the title of the article, Resolve and Suppress Tumor Growth and Enhance Cancer Therapy. They're actually talking about resolvins enhancing chemo, resolvins enhancing radiation. Ganoderma, also known as reishi, enhances the killing effect of chemo while protecting normal cells, enhances the killing effect of radiation while protecting normal cells. Try to find me on YouTube. I'm one of the most censored docs around. I'm surprised I have a channel. You might have to really dig deep to try to find me, but I've got 3 different videos that I send to patients on the process of cancer and how we can resolve it naturally. But resolvins and reishi ought to be part of every single protocol. Autoimmunity is taking up like a rocket ship, but notice what New England Journal of Medicine said many, many years ago, it's crucial to normal immune function. Your body weeds its own garden on a consistent basis. You got 40, 50 trillion cells. Some are going to get sick. Some of them are going to be intoxicated. Some are going to be damaged beyond repair. Some of them are going to mutate. What should the immune system do? Oh, you're no longer good for the community. We're just going to recycle you. That's what the immune system should do. And it does. So cell injury precedes autoimmune disease, and then there certainly can be certain environmental triggers. But notice this, the inclusion of omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, that's what puffers are, the most natural way to reduce autoimmune disease. So again, we've got that ratio here, 20-to-1 in the diet, when it should be 2-to-1 for optimal health. We are so far off, we're just a sick society. And then here's the title, Resolvins, Emerging Players in Autoimmune and Inflammatory Diseases. It is the bridge. And we've got hundreds of cases that have completely resolved. This was a 74-year-old woman. We got her ANA totally resolved in 7 weeks. And I videotaped them, how you feeling? I'm feeling great. Do you think if you were 20, you would have got over this faster? Yeah, I think so, right? Well, prevention does trump cure, so it should never happen to anybody, but if it does, we want to resolve it. These are the universal immune modulators that I consistently use, And yes, I used all 7. Take the pictures. Nutritional Frontiers will get you the files. you make sure they have your email. I'm pretty sure they do. They'll send you a real nice PDF. You can look up all the PubMeds. You can turn that one page on its side. You'll find out what to do for every single case. There you go. Yes, I'll go with this. They under-promise, over-deliver. And I hope they promise you the moon, because they're going to deliver. Chronic inflammatory state, any problem that's chronic is associated with the inflammatory process, including Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, inflammation, sarcopenia, osteopenia, all related to that. And now they even know that these resolvins can help with even muscle regeneration. And inflammatory process associated with osteoporosis, osteopenia. And this was even out in 2020. Specialized pro-resolvin mediators may be useful in controlling disease severity. Do you know how many patients I lost to COVID? Exactly 0. Do you know how much of my patient base got the jab? I'm going to guesstimate about 5%. And I always honor everybody where they are. I said, you're the experiment. I don't think you want to take that chance, because we haven't lost a patient to COVID, even people in their 80s. By the way, I'll tell you what my COVID strategy was. Out and early in 2020, by March of 2020, April of 2020, there were 2 studies. One was Proceeds National Academy of Science. The other was New England Journal of Medicine on convalescent plasma, which, by the way, that was Nobel Prize-winning research. First Nobel Prize ever, 1902. There was a bad flu going around. They basically took off blood from people that beat the flu, spun off the plasma, injected it into people that were fighting the flu, and they had about an 80% cure rate in 1902. Guess what New England Journal of Medicine Proceeds National Academy of Science cure rate was in both studies with convalescent plasma with COVID-19 when it was bad in 2020? What would you guess the cure rate was in both studies? It was identical. It was higher than 80%. It was 100%. Yeah, I don't know if you read the studies or not. I read that, I said, okay, I'm getting COVID. What are you, nuts? No, I'm healthy. I'm not worried about COVID. What's COVID going to do to this, right? I'm eating right, drinking right, thinking right, moving right, sleeping right, pooping right, talking right. I'm taking my resolvins. I'm doing my detox. I'm alkalizing. I've got my greens. I've got my superfoods. I've got my probiotics. We don't mess with drugs, right? We have purpose in life. So I said, anybody know anybody with COVID? Yeah, okay, I'm going to go give them a hug. Why? I want COVID. I got my COVID. I isolated for 10 days. My wife didn't even get it, you know? And then I went back to the office and never wore a mask. And if patients came with, I said, what are you doing with that diaper on your face, right? That's ridiculous. It doesn't do you any good. But with that said, my parents were in their 80s. And I said, you get it? I'm on a plane. You're getting my plasma. Well, guess what? They didn't get it till like 2021. And it had mutated so many times. Every time a virus mutates, it becomes less virulent. Why? Because if it kills its host, it kills its future. It wants to live in symbiotic relationship. So my parents, they had all the nutrients, they got it, they were over it in 5 days. 5 days, right, in their 80s. So SPMs for viral infections, take a look at this. The flu, herpes, RSV, HIV, HCV, and SARS-CoV-2, all proven to benefit from resolvins. This ought to be in every body every day. You don't know what sick person's next to you, so keep your defenses high, and you don't have to worry about anything. Pro-resolvins, resolution and clearance of microbes, along with reducing pain and promoting tissue regeneration. So I don't even know if I should tell the story of Evan Holyfield, but I guess I will. Maybe I won't go into detail. But I treated Evander his final 10 years. I treated Evan through his amateur career. I treated him through his first 6 professional fights. When COVID hit, he went back to Atlanta. Got a whole different team. Got talked into getting the jab. Now, I want you to look and see what happened. He had a major heart surgery. Now, when we were working with Evan, we had every piece of data on him that you could imagine. And talk about a heart. This was a beast of an athlete. Never lost a round when he was working with us. And I called Evan. I said, Evan, what the heck happened? He said, yeah, the doctor said I had this weird genetic defect. I said, Evan, but did you by chance get any of those shots? He says, well, yeah, I had to box. I said, do you think that had anything to do with it? He said, no, doctors assured me it had nothing to do with it. Oh, really? Oh, really? Right? It's public knowledge, so I'm not getting rid of anything. It's in the papers, right? I mean, this $100 million athlete. And Michael Morris, they removed both sides of his head. He says as a banker, he calculated about 25% of his skull. He had such a bad head injury, they took his skull apart to keep his brain from herniating through the base as it swelled. They pulled his kids into the ICU and said, say goodbye to your dad. He's not going to live through the night. And when I videotaped Mike, he said, at 21 days, I was strong enough to jog home from the hospital. He had a traumatic brain injury. And when the brain swells, it's got nowhere to swell, so it'll herniate through the foramen magnum, crush the brainstem, and you die. So they just took his skull apart to give it room to swell. And then they gave him if they didn't do that, he's dead. So thank God for good emergency care like that. Am I mad at medicine for what they do with chronic disease? I'm mad beyond words. What they do for acute care, I'm thankful every day for the miracles. We've got to understand where they are excellent and realize where they fall beyond short. But anyways, then they said, you'll be lucky if you get functional cognition back. By the end of that same year, he won an award as a banker in Houston, Texas. That's how sharp his cognition is. And I videotaped him as well. But we'll keep going. Inflammation is also associated with depression, as well as fatigue. And guess what? Resolvins have antidepressant benefits as well. So again, everybody should be taking these things every single day. Also good for leaky gut. You name it. When you need bridge from chronic inflammatory process to resolution, Resolvins are the go-to. And it's hard to imagine that they actually came up with a good tasting liquid SPM, but they actually have. I don't know how you did it. Well done, right? And you got some right there. So give it a shot. See how you enjoy it. Your DNA definitely isn't your destiny. We talk about the genetics and everything there. This is one study I want to talk about for just a moment. This should have turned cancer research on its head, because they said, all right, if cancer is a genetic disease, let's take the genetic material, the nucleus of a cancer cell, and put it into a normal cell. And by the way, let's take a healthy nucleus and put it into a cancer cell, and let's see what happens. So when the cancer nucleus went into a healthy cell environment, the offspring were normal. When the healthy nucleus went into a sick cell environment, the offspring were cancerous. Environment trumps genes. Genetics are such a minor player in all of cancer. Mike Webster in the movie Concussion, they created a new diagnosis, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Great movie. I'm not going to play that, no time for it. This kid, severe concussions. He was an elite high school football player, 5 concussions. I was treating a sister who's a track star. She got a full ride, an elite sprinter. And mom's talking to me one day. She says, can you do anything for concussion? And I said, often. Why? What's going on? She told me about her son, great football player, 5 concussions. She said, he stays in a dark room. He can't concentrate. He can't focus. He's so depressed. Doctors say there's no hope. You just learn to live with it. And he felt like he had a knife pick in his head. 21 days, 100% resolution. I filmed him. If I could fast forward, at the end of it, he says, I want to cry. And I said, tears of joy, I hope. He says, yeah, tears of joy. I thought my life was over. I got my life back. So if you can find my censored YouTube channel, look up Concussion. You could find him on that, right? Oh, yeah, I do need to get my Rumble, right? So I talked about the melatonin. Gut has 400 times the melatonin as the brain, 10 anti-cancer mechanisms, no known toxicity. Melatonin even blocked SARS-CoV-2 entry into the brain. There's plenty of people that had serious brain pathology. What if they'd been doing our stress reset? Yeah, take a good spray of that. Just open it, spray it, share it around the room. Someone's going to go home with that bottle, right? I think someone's going to go home with every bottle. So, every waking hour is where we go with that, and this one is just kind of repeat of what we said before. Toxins, you're going to want to detox. Very, very simply, there's more toxins in the world. They suggest everybody has 700 toxins in their body at all times. This is New York City, 1881. That was 2.5 million pounds of horse manure in the streets every single day. When the automobile came out, they cleaned up the streets, no more poop in the streets, and noticed that there was a 75% reduction in death from infectious disease before antibiotics, and a 91.25% reduction before widespread vaccines, and not a drop since. So what I often ask my patients is, if cleaning up the external environment led to such a dramatic improvement in wellness, what do you think will happen when you clean up your internal environment? And it used to be that detox was my number one go-to. Now I tag team it. I'm going to do a stress reset, I'm going to do a detox, and you bet I'm going to do the SPMs. You get people on that, I'll tell you what, they really commit to 10 days, and they will never look back and envy what they had before. They will look forward to a much better, brighter, more beautiful future. And so we do go hard and fast. I recommend 7 to 10 days of detox twice every single year, and there are your products and some of what makes them best in class. There's only one way you're going to know. Try it consistently. Try it with your patients. You know, you got questions, call Jamie, call Justin, call whoever. If they can't answer it, they got plenty of people that can, and they can even call me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Our world needs all the health that they can get. Oh, I forgot to put in about the coffee enema. But when you put coffee in the backside, it goes to the liver dumps bile and toxins. This is a really good thing, but here's a problem with coffee. 53% of the coffee in the world has mold and mycotoxins. Brewing doesn't get rid of it. Roasting doesn't get rid of it. The mycotoxins remain. Tons of heavy metals. Even we're partnering with Organo, have been for a long time, the world's purest certified clean coffee. Put it in your backside too. You'll dump things more effectively. You won't get the mold, mycotoxins, lead, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, and or microplastics. And every single box, you scan a barcode and you figure out, where was it sourced? What quality testing did it go through? And realize that it's going to be clear in every single category. worldofwellness.myorganogold.com is going to be your link should you want some of the great coffee and reishi spores. I was giving different insights to, I used to have something called Ask the Doctor that I did every Tuesday, and now I'm just going to do health talks and probably put them on Rumble, right? That's going to be the right idea. But there was a book called Broadcasting Happiness. And this woman grew up and she was so excited about the news, and she thought, one day I'm going to be a female news anchor. She realized that their philosophy was, if it bleeds, it leads. And so all they want to do is sell fear. And she walked away from that and she wrote a book called Broadcasting Happiness. She said, I couldn't poison the minds of everybody that we were reaching out to. And by the way, who's funding that? Brought to you by Pfizer, right? So the world is waking up to that. When people watch 6 or more hours of the Boston Marathon news coverage and follow-up, they had more PTSD than people that were actually at the event, because if it bleeds, it leads, and that sets them up for autoimmunity and other challenges. I always like to put out to my patients, I like the phrase, life does not happen to you, it happens for you. And I know some of us have had a very rough road. But there's many people that have come on the other side of that rough road with more compassion and desire to help people than anybody I've met in my entire life. So God bless you for getting you through that. Let's use it and make the world better in any way that you can. It certainly will give you more empathy. What you focus on grows, so focus on good stuff. And now focus is going to be actually the new tool. What happens every day happens everywhere. One of my mentors said this, if we had a TV screen playing 24/7 with all this beautiful scenery going on, and then just all of a sudden you look at the screen and there's this across the screen, you go, what the heck was that? That would probably be the equivalent of the bad in the world compared to the good. We've got 8 billion people, and there's a few that aren't so nice, but the vast majority of us want the best for everybody else. So let's make that happen. Wally Schmidt sadly died a few years ago, one of my great mentors, but this is one of his quotes way back when. Whenever there's a chronic case that you can't figure out, rule out heavy metals, food reaction, or stealth infections. I've found that to be really good guidelines. Psychoneuroimmunology, Dale Bredesen, 36 different risk factors for Alzheimer's, but they all fall into 3 categories: toxic inflammatory process and a decline in growth factors. Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes. Obesity is a risk for all of the above. You know what? Life is more complicated than we make it. Get kids off of these balloon screens, which is causing them serious challenges. Give it to them for a short period of time a day. Sleep is probably our best friend, and we should really pay attention to it. If you haven't read this book, you want to read it. Matthew Walker, PhD, Why We Sleep, Every Species Does. The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. And then, sleep is going to be good for everything. Nutritional Frontiers, of course, has a great formula for that. Here's what we started out with. Environment will eventually win. And, of course, gut is their number 1 selling product now for good reason. 90% of disease can be traced back to the gut. So we want to seal and heal the gut. And I literally use all these in that protocol, especially the GI Complete, the IgG, powerful for that. And then, of course, the Probzyme and the Resolvins. So that was a quick 247 slides. I hope you got a little something out of that. But we can certainly answer any and all questions, or at least we'll try to.
All right, first of all, wow.
Jamie, I'm going to go ladies first, yes. The mic. All right, the mic was at my table, but
Okay,
how
here we
about
go.
a mic?
Hey, Mike. Okay, I'm going to hold it for you. Okay.
Okay. I know every person is different, but you talked a little bit about the concussions for the children, essentially, in sports and things like that.
Yeah.
So what are the basic recommendations for that as far as products? Is it the SPM or
SPZM's critical, so is the Probzyme.
Probes? Okay.
I'm sorry, so is the Sibzyme. So
Okay.
proteases, lipases, amylases, every waking hour it'll dissolve the amyloid, it actually reduces the inflammatory process, and then the SPMs are the bridge to healing.
Okay, and that, what about like after concussion recovery? So, 6 months later when they're
Well,
cleared?
once we get the acute inflammatory process and we dissolve the scar tissue, now we
Yeah.
just need to retrain the brain.
Okay.
But, my long-term protocol for everybody is the same. They need a really clean diet. They need great baseline supplementation. The multi is better than ever before. A shake a day with the greens is absolutely epic. We're going to do the Resolvins. We're going to do the probiotics. We're going to do the D3K2.
Okay.
And I just want everybody to do that.
Yeah, regardless of what they're
Right.
recovering from, right?
And
Okay.
and so, it's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble. So when by the way, Michael Morris, right, they told him he wasn't going to live through the night. I didn't show you that video. But he was a patient beforehand. And I asked him in that video, I said, Michael, they told your kids you were going to die. How did you win? And he said, well, first and foremost, thank you, God, right? And then he said, secondly, I really think it was here, getting my body in shape, getting my chemistry in shape before the accident. So imagine we had his inflammatory process under control. We had his stress under control. We had him detoxed. We had him nourished. We had him alkalized. We had him on the Resolvins. And then he took a hit where they had to take his skull apart to save his life. And then at 21 days, he said, I felt good enough I could have jogged home. So it's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble. We do people with fast track resets, do a detox, do the stress reset, do the Resolvins, and you're going to get people in great shape for whatever comes their way.
So,
And we
Dr.
even proved it like with COVID, right? It took them until 2021 to say, oh, by the way, this is even anti-HIV. Pretty amazing.
So just talking about the detox protocol, it's on this table over here. Dr. Bob shows the pyramid, the nutritional pyramid. There are 2 products that cover the entire nutritional pyramid. It's the Ultimate Shake and the Proline Greens. And
Well,
you get everything
Resolvins.
that you need. And
We gotta
you
add
add in
Resolvins.
your SPMs. But
Yep.
those 2 in particular, in terms of nutrients, it's even a
Yep.
meal replacement. Okay, back here.
You were mentioning scar tissue, but what about surgical scar tissue?
Same deal.
But I forgot what
There's
you
going to be
said.
some that's needed. So when we talk about the enzymes dissolving scar tissue, I haven't found it disrupted surgical at all. In fact, my patients that have had surgery recover faster.
Are you asking specifically the product? It's called Cybzyme, Cybzzyme.
Yeah.
It's like Jamie he's really great with analogies. I always remember it's like Pac-Man. It eats up all the debris.
Yeah, well, right. It's not just scar tissue, right? It is different toxins, it's microbes. And again, the literature said this: the application of enzyme therapy appears limitless. Systemic enzyme therapy appears limitless.
That's what I was going to comment on. For a systemic effect, take the Cybezyme without food.
Yep.
At least an hour before meals or 2 to 3 hours after. Yep. And you can go very high dosage for any kind of acute condition, if it's a scarring, swelling, damaged tissue, congestion, anything like that. 20?
Wow.
And for topical benefit, we also have the transdermal CBD cream. So if it's painful or if it's severe and you want to help with the healing of that, it'd be great.
Okay, another question? Do we have any other questions, or are these minds just blown? Yeah, I know, it's pretty good, huh? Well, my favorite thing about Dr. Bob is about all the energy that he brings to the room. So I love watching you every single time. It's really a pleasure. So again, everybody thank Dr. Bob.
I think Jamie has one as well.
Yeah, one of the things I enjoyed over the years of watching you, I remember Tanita, that girl, Tanisha,
Yeah.
come in and her, I think her feet were already cut off.
Yeah, they took off both legs below the knee and they were going to take off her hand.
Yeah, and the thing that I remember about that, it was the first time I really saw a speaker look at therapeutic dosing. And I think you were doing 6 shakes a day with her for a week. So you can comment a little bit about that, because I think a lot of times docs that we're working with maybe a little concern going with the therapeutic dose. I know you say if it's a big challenge, you need a big therapy. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, first of all, the term nutrient and toxicity don't go in the same sentence. They just don't. We're so profoundly malnourished that we all need to up our game, and bodies do respond to frequency, duration, intensity, quality, and timing of stimuli. So, early on, one of my big lessons was when Evander Holyfield came in, and he had a week to get ready for a fight. And, I'm sitting there saying to myself, how's this guy going to be ready to fight with what's going on with him? So I told him, I said, all right, take this every waking hour. No, I didn't say waking hour. I said, take this every hour. And so he came back a few days later. I said, how you doing? He says, well, I'm feeling a whole lot better, but man, I'm tired. I said, why are you tired? He says, I'm up every hour taking this, And then I had to change my language, but it was such a compliment, because what his whole team told me, his whole team came into the office, he said, when you earn Evander's respect and he values your opinion, he'll follow it to the letter. And that is what made him such a great champion. And we can all learn lessons from that, And so, if a guy that, first of all, he wasn't malnourished, right? There's no way he was malnourished compared to most people's standards. His diet was much cleaner. His body was much healthier. His lifestyle, he didn't smoke. He didn't drink. He didn't do horrible food. But we had some things we needed to move fast. And I thought, wow, if the best of the best can get better, what about the worst of the worst? Why don't we really give them a boost? And when I started doing that, then we started getting miracles. And they're consistent. Do we help everybody? No. Do we help everything? No. Do we do our best? You bet. Do we provide the best? You bet. It's up to them to do it, and then, I say them and God and good products can solve any problem if it's their time to solve it.
Yeah, 7 Flowers is the herb, and so this is great. I got to tell you this quick story. So I'm at my nurse practitioner's back in Tampa, and Dr. Len Brantzowitz, one of our brand ambassadors who loves to do research for us, sits down and he's talking about the power of 7 Flowers, and he goes, I did some research and I found out that 7 Flowers actually helps to reduce, schizophrenia. And paranoid schizophrenia in high doses. And I go, well, what's a high dose? He goes, well, 12 a day. And I go, well, Jacqueline put me on 6 in the morning and 6 at night. I'm on 12 a day. And then Jacqueline, my nurse practitioner, goes, oh, we just told you it was for blood pressure. I'm like, you guys suck. You suck. Anyway, there could be a side benefit to not hearing the voices in my head. There you go. I'm much better. Everybody, we just want to say thank you so much for coming tonight. We hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for supporting Nutritional Frontiers.